having a good day. This is a river tamarind tree. It's got many other common names. I'll also put the scientific name in the description. Before I go too much further, I do realize that in most areas it is considered an invasive tree. I have no intention of ever letting it go to seed and letting the seeds get out of hand or anything. I mean, I do keep moringa, which is also considered to be invasive in my area here as well. The idea here is, this one hasn't ever flowered. If it did, I would not allow the seeds to ever blow away. And my black olive trees that I just did the other day, I've considered planting both of those in the yard. I mean, they're not invasives. I don't really know if they're working all that well out to be bonsai trees for me. But if I ever do that, you know, if I ever got, say, bored with this tree or just didn't want it anymore, I would certainly destroy it. I wouldn't do anything like that. So please don't give me a hard time about raising an invasive. It is 1.5 years old, grown from seed. About 6 months ago, I had this wire down below here and it was cutting it a little bit. And what I did is I just kind of moved it up and didn't rewire this part, just let it grow out. All of the wire scars are already gone. These trees do grow very quickly. And today I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to take this wire off and I'm going to repot it. I figure since it is an invasive tree, not very common to keep in the hobby, I would like to try to make the nabari as nice as possible and just kind of experiment around with it and figure, you know, maybe some of the mistakes I make with it, if I make any. I haven't made any really yet, although you're getting ready to see the other seedling like this is quite a bit different. It does have roots that are getting ready to come out of the bottom, and then just on a nice little, you know, just something to look at here. Some people ask about, like, why would you get an escape root? Why would you do escape roots? And this is just going to be a good video to just kind of show you the difference. They do have some drawbacks. They do have some advantages. This one does not have an escape root. It does have roots coming out of the bottom, but I do have this sitting on a cinder block so that it doesn't have, you know, the soil underneath of it, so the roots want to escape. You can see them just kind of peeking through the drain holes. So I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to repot it back in the same pot, just, you know, and just let that go for a little while, and then show you what happens with a good escape root. All right, and since I'm repotting it just for the purpose of trying to make better nabari, I mean, the soil isn't breaking down or anything else, I'm going to try to save all the soil, so I'm just going to put it in a smaller container. Just allow all that to spill out for now. And even here, I'm really glad I'm doing this. This is probably where I had to fix it from the hurricane. And had I let it grow too much more, it might have covered up that screen there. But some of the people, some people I still see a lot of forums where new people always say, oh, my trees grow just great in potting soil. With me having this in this good substrate, that's what gives me these nice white roots to see here. Makes it so much easier to work with. You'll notice I can just peel this off the bottom where the screen was there. And I'm going to guess that after the storm blew through, it was knocked over. I pulled it up out of there. I put some soil on the bottom of it, and I just put it right back on top. And I was just probably very much in a hurry doing hundreds of trees. I'd say hundreds, dozens of trees that day. And probably just rushed right on through. Didn't even realize that I should have taken the screen off and put it back in the bottom of the pot. All right, let's get that off there. Nice white healthy roots going into that good substrate. I can just get this off. And really probably won't do much more to it than that. I'm putting that screen just right in the back of the bottom of the same pot. That pot is falling apart, but I expect this time next year I'll be repotting it again. Maybe into something bigger, we'll just see. Nothing, not a whole lot of surface roots coming off of it. Got one good one there. I don't see too much of a need to dig into that and expose that anymore. I'm just going to get back in the pot. Probably I put a little bit too much back in there. And because I am putting it right back in the same pot, I do want to just trim the edges off. Just to make sure I got room to get nice fresh soil around the edges there. So I collected these seeds in November of 21. So that would make it about 1.5 years old. I think I already repotted it once. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I even started this channel, is that as far as living in Florida, you know, you find seeds in November and plant them, and then, you know, you look at forums and they're like, oh no, you can't plant the seeds in November. Well, down here in Florida, we can. Kind of part of the reason why I did this channel is just, you know, to show, demonstrate, and just kind of work with some of the tropical trees that that follow the rules of people that live everywhere else. This top piece here, I noticed, it was just dying back. I just snapped that off, stuck to there. This branch here could almost be, you know, you could almost say that that's on the inside of that curve and it really needs to go. But if you're looking at it from this way, it's the only life coming off of that side. So I do think I'm just going to leave everything the way it is. And the way these trees are here, I'm not even going to put this in the shade or anything. I'm just going to put it right back where it was. Still nice and steady. And let me go get the one that had the escape root. You'd be amazed at the difference. All right, and then there is this guy with the escape root. Really hard to get it all in the picture all at once. But this is the difference and how much it's grown. You can already see I cut off the escape root, and you can already see that some of this foliage is already losing, it's turgidity, I guess. It's already kind of deflating there. In a minute I'll show you close up just how much this was getting ready to grow up there as well. But you can see here, it actually has 2 escape roots and 2 drain holes right next to each other. I'm going to go ahead and repot it just like that other guy. Now, you can see that this trunk is much bigger, so I mean, you know, it is getting much thicker than that one, and so that would be the advantage of it. But now when I go to repot it, I'm going to have to be like much rougher on it. I'm going to have to root prune it much harder, and just kind of even go with a little leap of that it's going to be okay afterwards. Where keeping that one without the escape root, I've got all the confidence in the world that that tree is going to be just fine. So with the invasive nature of this tree, I also have no doubt it's going to be fine too. But you know, we'll just have to see. I am this one as well. You know, it had the wire on down here. You can actually, I'm kind of surprised as much quicker as this one's growing. You can see just some little faint lines there where it was cutting in before. I moved it up top here, and I had this extra little bend in there, and you can see the wire's already off, because as soon as it took off with that escape root, I noticed that it was actually getting ready. It was getting ready to basically strangle itself right here. It was almost separated from the tree, and I went and I took the wire off, and then that's kind of when I realized how good that escape root came out. I did have the escape root kind of planned, but I didn't realize how well that had taken hold and how quickly it was growing at that point. Of course, it was probably only about, like say this tall where my hand is at that point, not all the way up to there just yet. So first thing I'm going to do, just so I can handle this a little bit easier, I did get that last little curve in there. You know, sometimes with the seedlings, I know what people mean when they say that they hate the S-curves that they get from the big box stores. But sometimes when you have a little seedling and you get one bend one way, there's only really one other way to bend, and then that's back the other way. And then you kind of come back this way, and then next thing you know, you got yourself an S-curve tree. But I'm going to cut it off just like maybe one node up from where I got that last curve in there. And show you guys up top. It's not going to be the easiest to see since it's all looking deflated. But we've actually just finally started getting our rainy season kicking in. And instead of, it was not only continuing to grow out of here, but it was also getting secondary branching here. So a bud right there, a bud right there, and then that secondary, those secondary branches coming out. Wanted to leave some growing tips just to leave some momentum in the tree. Of course, now I see all the growing tips are looking really deflated. This one somehow was growing out a lot more than the other ones, and it's a bar branch. This one. I was thinking about cutting it back a little, and I think I'm going to cut it back all the way. Just take that one off. And then basically, I've had a couple of, I do have a, I might do a starfruit update in a little bit. I have at least one out there with a good escape route. It's not growing nearly as quickly as this. I have done this, you know, kind of work with several ficus trees before. I do think that the root system on this tree is just every bit as tough as a ficus. So I'm going to go ahead and just get kind of rough with it like I was with the ficus trees that got the escape roots, and get it up out of here and just prune that whole taproot off, get a little fresh soil in, and I think I'm going to let it get another escape root just until the end of the season here. Let's see if I can get a better look. And I'd have to go back and look at the video when I repotted them the first time. It almost looks like I put some good soil on the bottom and just took what I had originally potted this in and put it in here, and then just topped it off with some decent soil. And then because of the escape root, instead of having a flat mat like that other one had, and I guess it is two roots here, looked like it was meshing into one, do wind up with these two long roots like that. And there we go, with actually kind of the benefit of the escape route and the drawback of the escape route all in one picture there. So you can see how much thicker that trunk is than that other one. But then instead of having all those fine roots, of course I also had it in that potting soil. Got this curling root that it went down. I already cut the other one off. Too. All right. Alright, and obviously I got a lot more aggressive with the root pruning on this one. So I probably will go ahead and get this guy in the shade for a bit. I do get the idea though that as weak and deflated as it looks like now, my area of shade is actually just on the side of the house where I have my coffee, and gets like 2 hours of sun in the morning. I get the idea when I see this guy in the morning, it'll almost look like nothing ever happened to it. It was just missing the top here. I did from here, you know, up another about 3 feet. There was no active nodes. You can see some inactive nodes, but there was no active ones. I would have liked to have cut back to something green, but I didn't want to leave, you know, 2-3 feet of blank trunk there. And I also did want to save this little extra movement I got in there. I mean, I did save it from having the wire on there too tight. You can see where it was cutting in really bad right there. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but pretty interesting the way it healed up once I got that wire off and just we'll let that continue to run. But you know, for a year-and-a-half-old seedling, got plenty of movement in it. If this piece does happen to die back to here, that's fine. This can be the new leader. It's not that big of a deal. This, I don't really like the way this branch is longer and a little bit thicker than this one. But if I take both those off, or either one of those off, that only leaves me with one more branch, and that could possibly end up being the leader. What I'm hoping happens is much like the top of the tree here. Once it starts growing again and recovers from having the top taken off and the roots taken off, I'm hoping it starts getting all those secondary branches in there. That should actually kind of help weigh those down a little bit, and then just have me a little bit of a better defined leader up top there. But we'll see what happens. These tropical trees are fun, but a challenge. All right, and last but not least, I got this guy. After I got those other two from seed pods in a Burger King parking lot, and then a couple months later, I noticed that right outside of my Lowe's, there was a whole grove of them growing right on the edge of the road, sitting right there where even the mowers have to try to cut them down because they're kind of growing out in the road. And I noticed they were starting to do some work, so I figured, they were getting ready to tear them out. They still haven't done it, but I just went and dug one up. It was the closest one to the edge of the road. This thing was about 7 foot tall. You can see, well, you can probably tell just from the taper. You probably can't really see right now. There's a huge scar right there where it had been getting nicked by the mowers, and then they had missed it because it was right behind a guardrail there, and it had actually grown to about 7 or 8 feet tall. It was at least as tall as I am, a little bit taller, I think at least 7 feet tall. And then that's where I then chopped it there, and then you can even see I chopped it there, and I chopped it there. And right now there's actually, I've got this guy coming out, which is basically the leader, and it's got another branch just like right at the same spot. And so I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and just take out the leader and let that smaller one become the new leader. And then I did have wire on this one. Probably see where it's got some movement in it there. And then that did come up on the leader too. It was cutting into this one really bad. I was kind of surprised it wasn't cutting into the leader much. It was cutting more into that one. I took that one off. And then I've got wire on these two bottom branches. It's been a good 7-8 months. I meant to look up that video that I put the wire on there. I'll either have a playlist or all the old videos from these guys in the description. I'm going to go ahead and pull it off. Very spindly branches. You can see it cutting it a little bit. I was a little afraid that it was going to start growing out of control and grow itself right through the wire, kind of like that one with the escape route almost did. Have that smallest little branch coming out there. I'm going to take that off. And then for the rest of it here, there's a couple little branches here coming straight up. I'll take those out. Been overall pretty pleased with this thing, getting plenty of sub-branching coming off of it. Now that the wire's off, it's going to start going straight up, I'm sure. So this piece is already heading up. This piece was kind of coming down. So I'll go ahead and take that one top piece off and just let that lower piece work its way on up. I've been noticing those just coming straight up right there. Amazing how much life. And so we've just started our rainy season here, so hopefully maybe a little light prune now might just, really get this guy to fill out once it gets healthy. Trees really do love the rainwater compared to the tap water I give them. Actually, I'm going to, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, this piece here is really weak. Even has a little yellowing on it. Has some dye back there at the end of the wire. And so I'm just going to go back to the last live branch there. Lots of stuff. This is where I took the wire off first. Lots of crazy growth right in the crotches of the branches. Again, this is because it's collected. I mean, this branch is thicker than the bottom branch, but at the same time, it's also up here in what could be a canopy. Hate to take it out. Seen a couple channels out of the Philippines that, they say that these are just a nuisance tree for them. Actually, I'm going to shorten that up a little bit. It's a nuisance tree for them in the wild, just like it is here. It's listed on Florida's invasive species list. And then they say they don't really bother with it for bonsai too much because it gets lots of dieback. But overall, with this collected one here, and it's got some decent taper. You can kind of see the big difference between up here and down here. It's been kind of fun to play with. Take some rough root pruning. This coming up January will be its second year in this pot. So I'm thinking probably January or February I'll go ahead and try to, I might put it back in either in a bulb pan or just right back in here. But try to get really aggressive with it and see what kind of a decent looking stump I can wind up with here.